Become an ally. Rise above racism in healthcare.
You're watching Rogers TV.
Join me over coffee as we delve into topics that affect our everyday lives. Today I'm in conversation with Jennifer Morley, and I'm going to get it right this time. She is a realtor with Royal Lepage RCR Realty. And our conversation is going to focus today on, I'm thinking of selling my home. What are the best strategies that I need to know about? And this is why we have Jennifer Morley. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much.
Oh, so let's get into, I'm thinking of selling my home, and we want the best results. What are some of the strategies?
You've got to do a little bit of research first, and obviously a little bit of bias. I'm always going to recommend reaching out to a realtor. And I would say don't just reach out to one. Reach out to 2 or 3 realtors and have a conversation, because we're going to help you decide, is this the right time for you to move? You know, and we'll have differing opinions on the market. So you want to kind of get some ideas of statistics and is this the best time to proceed?
Well, I guess each homeowner has different needs, different times in their lives, whether it's a young family, whether it's transitioning to a new community, or whether it's older folks who are having to transition to something like downsizing or into an accommodation situation. So this is what you're assessing?
Absolutely. So I'm going to weigh those needs. What is the priority of your move right now against what is the market doing right now? I'm going to come to you and say, this is the style of home that you have. This is what's selling right now. This is what potentially you could achieve for a sale price for your home. Does that make sense for your time and need right now? So that is the starting point number one. You've got to know, eyes wide open going into it, is this the right time? Because there is no perfect time in the market. Yes, springtime is busier, fall is actually often busier for us as well, but depending on what's going on with the economy, the state of the world, things shift. You know, during COVID, we obviously saw massive peaks in prices, and houses were flying off the market. And that took an abrupt stop in about April of 2022. Just kind of stopped, and people had to pause and say, okay, we've kind of hit a peak here, and the buyers got scared out of the market. And things have come around since then. The prices have built back up, and slowly but surely buyers are coming back into the market. We had a really tough winter this winter. That actually affects us very much. So is that the right time for you to sell? You'd have to weigh that against your need. Obviously, there are cases where I actually have to sell. I've got a job somewhere. I have to move. You don't have a choice. So then you've got to balance your expectations against that. How am I going to price my house competitively to get this job done fast?
Well, one of the things that we have learned in my family as we've changed homes over the years, partly because we were moving from community to community, but there was, looking around the house saying, what is it that we need and what are we going to take with us? And how can we dispense with some of these other extra items that we think we're not going to need in the next transition?
Definitely people that have been in their houses for a long period of time, and really even a short period of time. It's amazing how much we accumulate in our homes without realizing it. But if you're talking about somebody that's been in their home for 10, 15 plus years, you've obviously accumulated a lot of items over time. So it's hard sometimes to see through that, or to actually see that it's there. You're so used to those items being here that you can't focus on it. So a realtor can come in and kind of guide you, and if you need a decluttering specialist or a stager, we can, provide names for that and referrals for that to help guide you through that, because you can't see past your treasures, and we want a buyer to see their treasures fit in. And that's the key to get your place sold, get the most money for it. A buyer needs to be able to see, I can live here, not, oh, that's so-and-so living here, because that's their stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Right? So it's a gentle process we definitely have to take with folks, because we're definitely attached to our belongings, of course, but we got to switch our mindset to a buyer's perspective and view our home differently.
Well, a lesson that we learned specifically was that our house sold once it was practically empty. And so things happen where we inherited furniture, we had our own furniture, we inherited furniture, and then the cottage got sold, and then we got to bring all the cottage. And how many storage lockers can you rent to try and
to move things out. Yeah.
And then we had 4 garage sales, and then the house finally sold when we had actually moved out. Right. And that people could come in and see it for the unique value that it was.
That's right. Yeah. You are in total control of the sale of your property from that perspective. We can provide you the advice and our recommendations based on what we know being out and about in the market as realtors. But it's ultimately up to you to take that advice or not. So definitely when we try to ask you to please pare down, it's difficult, it's stressful. We try to mitigate that as best we can by, again, providing you options for what to do with your items. Maybe you have that garage sale before you come to market. Maybe you don't wait until you're on the market to do that. But again, that all depends on the timing of what's right for you based on what your needs are moving forward. So that's why it's a very nuanced conversation for each individual. There is no cookie cutter situation when I list a house.
What are you advising young people who are just starting out and thinking that it was time to buy their first home?
First-time buyers are so much fun to work with. I love them. They're sponges for information. They really are. They take what you have to say and they'll run with it. At the same time, it's such a difficult market and time for first-time buyers. The inventory remains low. That's not going to change. We can't create 1.5 million houses in the province of Ontario to address the current needs. So first-time buyers definitely have a trying time. As folks are aging, they're staying in their homes longer because they don't have options to move out necessarily. So that's a different conversation there. So that puts pressure definitely on the housing supply. So first-time buyers need to be prepared that it might be a bit of a marathon and not so much a sprint to find your place. All I can say is you need to maybe speak to a mortgage broker and a financial advisor first and foremost. Yeah. And as realtors, we're definitely in touch with many individuals that can help with that. You need to take a look at your discretionary spending. Am I doing skip the dishes every other day? Maybe I just don't do that, right? It's about saving and saving and saving, and it's hard work, but the satisfaction of a first-time buyer getting into that house is the best feeling I ever have in this business. It really is.
Well, the excitement and enthusiasm. Now, when we were buying our first home, we were coming into a situation where we already had a lot of strategies on saving money, being careful with our money, recording everything, knowing where we stood financially, what we thought we could afford. And we knew that it was okay to have secondhand furniture and secondhand items, things that were being donated to us from family members and things like that. But there's sort of a different trend now for young buyers where somehow some feel, not all, but some feel that they want to have the same standard as what their parents have already grown into.
And parents want that for their kids too, to a degree. Everybody wants their child to have more than what you had.
Oh, yeah.
But again, we've hit a threshold where it's not necessarily going to be the case. So again, for us as realtors, a lot of our job is mitigating expectations and managing expectations of folks to bear the reality. Yes, this is not, you know, sometimes your first home is not your forever home.
Yeah.
You know, kind of those days are gone. Back in the day when, you know, my folks bought their house, that was their house for life, and that was kind of the expectation. They raise a family and they were able to do that. Well, it's often not possible for first-time buyers. So there's a reason they're first-time buyers. There's going to be a second time and possibly a third or a fourth time in life that you're going to buy a house. So you got to start with getting in the market, building some equity, and financially that's the best thing going. Home ownership is absolutely one of the top investments you can make for yourself. So
As long as you're making a financial investment that actually works for you and you're not getting in over your head.
Well, and so there are laws in place for that, and mortgage financing rules in place for that, and certainly definitely after the fact, once you get into your first house, as long as you're not getting into more debt in other places, again, those discretionary expenses. Don't buy a house and then buy a brand new car, right? Definitely don't buy a house and buy a new car before it closes.
Okay.
You won't get the house. so I mean, there's a lot of things to talk about because people, you know, people don't you know what's going on. You have an idea of what's going on in the market and how things work, but you're not in it day to day.
No.
So I'm not going to tell a doctor how to do their job. They're in it day to day. Come to us. We're professionals too, and we're in it day to day, and we see what's going on, and we can provide you with some guidance.
I think it's really essential to be in touch with a realtor, a licensed realtor who knows the playing field. And I do know that a lot of folks try to sell their homes on their own, but it's a minefield of navigating all the legal aspects of trying to sell your house on your own, or even trying to buy a house that's not being negotiated with a realtor. So I really value the field that you're in and the important job that you do in the community. And I just want to say that we were transitioning from Windsor to Owen Sound in the 80s. And we had the most amazing realtor at that time. I mean, he was so kind and did such a fabulous job for us. But we would never have thought to come from one community and to go into another community and not be in touch with a realtor.
Right. I'm glad you had that experience.
Oh, he was the best.
Yeah.
Tony Martin, he was the best.
Wonderful. Definitely, the beauty of the market in Canada is that it's an open market. You're not forced to use a realtor. Nobody's asking you to have to use a realtor. If you want to sell your house, you feel you've got the means and the marketing skills and so forth to do that, to achieve the most money for you, that's your right to do that. Absolutely. Nobody's stopping you. Obviously, I would discourage that for many reasons. Obviously, the legalities of what's going on, you know. Just the contracts themselves are, even to sell yourself, the contracts are quite difficult and important and legally binding, and can get you in so much trouble if you don't know what you're doing, right? So you know, we guide you through that process. We're also regulated. We're a regulated professional organization, and we're bound by the Trust in Real Estate Brokers Act in Ontario, which is regulated by the Real Estate Council of Ontario. And the Real Estate Council of Ontario is actually a consumer protection body. It's not a realtor protection body. So you've got somebody overseeing our profession directly, so that if there are bad actors in the industry, unfortunately there are, and I would love to say there aren't, but that's in any industry. We are regulated and strictly ruled, so that your best interests as a consumer are protected all the way. So you as a seller, to sell by yourself, that's fine. But the buyer pool is going to be saying, okay, that person's not listed with a realtor. Is the information about that house accurate? Yeah. You know, that's on me to verify the accuracy of the information when I list a property. So we verify the accuracy of the taxes and the details of the property to the best of our ability. I can't see through walls. so obviously if something's happening in behind, I'm going to get a home inspector and, you know, and they're going to help you out. So a buyer seeing a for sale by owner might be less inclined perhaps to go through that because they're just a little bit skittish about what's happening there.
Well, one thing that was really important to us to always be open and upfront. When we were selling our home, we actually put a binder together of all the information about the home. And because it's an older home, you can't see what's behind the walls. Right. So we had a fire inspector come in and inspect our home. We had a general inspector come in and do the other things other than the wiring and that sort of thing. And we had the binder put together and out on display because we wanted anyone who was purchasing our home to know the home.
Right.
I mean, we loved it. Now, we didn't tell them where our kids carved their initials. We let them find that out themselves. But it was mostly on the outside of the house.
Well, those are the little gems you find out later when you get into a house.
But all the important stuff, and all the heating costs and the electrical costs and all the bills that we thought was important for someone to know when they were buying, because we loved our home, but we needed to transition to a different, instead of a two-story home, we needed a main floor home.
A bungalow. Yeah.
Yes.
And that's wonderful. I wish everybody was like that. They're not. So definitely when I go in to list a home, that is information I will request. Maybe not necessarily a pre-listing home inspection. Again, a buyer will often do a home inspection to their satisfaction. But definitely if we have question marks about something is going on, we want to go in with full disclosure.
Yeah.
And that's our responsibility, and that protects you from getting in trouble down the line. You know, full disclosure moving forward is important.
Well, not everyone realizes that they can do that. Sometimes I think the pressure, I see something I love because it has stained glass window, or it has a big island, and you don't look beyond that, because purchasing a home is emotional. I mean, I stepped into the front door and saw all these rainbows echoing through the walls because of all the cut glass that was in the house, and said, this is it. Well, then we walked into a nightmare, but we re-roofed, we rewired, we replumbed, we dug out the basement, we did.
I love a good century home, but it definitely has some challenges that are hiding behind the walls. Yeah.
And so, but it is emotional.
Yes, completely. And, I bought a home recently. A realtor needs to buy a home every once in a while to remind themselves of what it's like on the other side, because 100% I was an emotional connection to the house. And I'm like, oh, wait a minute, let me reel this back. I need to look at this, and this before I get into it. But one of my conversations with buyers, the first thing I say is, listen, I really want you to fall in like with your home that you're looking at. Please don't fall in love until after you move in. Fall in love after you move in, because there are too many things to happen to get from point A to point B to make sure that it's right for you.
Oh, absolutely. But we stayed for 22 years, and we fixed all the problems.
Wonderful.
And then we got exhausted,
Yes.
and then decided it was time to transition to a main floor, because we wanted to age in place.
Yes.
Now, the difficulty with that was trying to find it.
Bungalows are a tough find, definitely. And bungalows of a right size, right? You've got to find the right size to fit you, and It can be a challenge. They're not the first thing a developer will build because it's not the most bang for a developer's buck. And that's the thing. Bungalows take up a huge footprint on square footage on a property. So yeah, they're tough to find.
Well, it took us 5 years.
Yeah.
To find it, and we've been in that home now for 20 years and absolutely love it and feel that we can age in place,
and
that was really important to us.
And that's it.
Even 20 years ago, that was important to us.
And sometimes the conversation might be with your realtor that comes in to review your home before you list is to understand, okay, this is your goal. Is there a way to make this house that you're currently in work?
Oh, yes.
Is there somebody I should put you in touch with that can maybe move that laundry room upstairs, that can, will this other room over here work as a bedroom? Is there a way to configure this that you can stay in place? And maybe that works best. I go in to list a house, and I sometimes come out and they're not selling. They're not going to sell after, and that's fine too.
Yeah.
Like for me, this is my profession, my career for the past 17 years. I'm not, I'm here to help you consult and help you guide the best way forward.
Well, that's a really good point. It's something I hadn't actually thought about, was a realtor helping you look at your home differently, how you could stay there if it was modified, gently modified, that wasn't going to cost you complete reconstruction costs, and gently modified into how you could stay in place. I mean, one of the things we loved about our city house was the location. It was the perfect place to raise children. Yeah. And that was part of the purchasing, even though we had to deal with a rock and rubble basement, and all the quirks that went with the house, that nothing was square. But it was the best neighborhood.
Yeah. Yeah. And you often don't want to leave that too, because your kids are grown and gone, but they still come back to visit. I want to still be able to have my family meals at Christmas and Easter, and have them visit in the summer and have a place for them to stay. So you're scared of downsizing from that perspective as well. But then, you've got to weigh that. I've got the expense and the hassle of managing a large property, and you've got to work through that. Does it make sense for me to continue on doing this? And are there other options? Would one floor living in a condo work for me? That's a whole different thing that people have to wrap their heads around. Is that something that might work for me? Where I'm no longer having to mow a lawn and shovel a lane and deal with that. No, I don't have to worry about the roof because the condo fees pay for that, right? So there are options for everybody. You just need somebody to help guide you and investigate what's going to work for me.
Well, I think knowing your lifestyle too, which works. I mean, people who live in condos can close their door and travel. Folks like us, we need land around us. We need trees. We need water. We need rocks. We need to mow grass. We need to grow plants. We need to have that. Right. But at the same time, we need one floor. Right. That we can manage. Yep. And I think because of those needs, moving into a condo would be like a bucket of cold water. Right. That wouldn't work. It wouldn't work for you. It wouldn't work for us.
Absolutely. Yeah. So then you have to explore the other option. So, you take a little longer to find the right place. You maybe hold off listing your house. That's the timing in the market where I come in and say, okay, do I list before I buy? Do I buy before I list?
Oh, now,
so that's a whole different conversation, right?
I will tell you that story off camera. How to do everything wrong.
Oh. That's a whole weeks of shows.
Oh, it is, absolutely. But it's a good point that you raised, so please state that again.
Market conditions are in flux and they change, and market conditions change based on the style of house. It's not just, yes, overall in general, the whole market changes, but even for the style of the house, what are you selling? Maybe what you have to offer for sale isn't moving as quickly. Maybe it's getting snapped up like that, but you haven't found something else on the other side. What are your options? You know, so we have to explore all that. You know, I don't have a crystal ball to foresee what's going to happen at the end of the day, but I take what I know about with the data that I have and what I'm seeing out and about, where realtors are out showing houses, listing houses, talking to people. We're immersed into it, into the market 24/7. So that's the piece the general public, I follow the real estate news and but you're not immersed in it, and every, like I said, every situation is different, and that's why I am a firm believer in my profession, and certainly in backing my profession up in its value to the public.
So just to kind of get back to that question, do you sell first and then look, or do you find it and then sell?
It's all situational. There is no one right answer, and it depends on the situation you're in. It's all nuanced. You know, you don't want to go get excited about something, but I haven't listed my house over here, and then I've lost out on this house because I don't have mine on the market yet. So generally, I like to have somebody well into the process of having their house prepared. Even if they're not on the market yet, we've got it decluttered, we've got it staged, we have maybe have the photos and videos taken that we need to do, and it's ready to go, so that when you find something, we can hit the market like that. And hit the ground running, and then you increase your odds of getting this house on the other side.
Oh, well, that is a really smart strategy. Wish I had thought of that a few years ago. Yes, well, the stress level of buying a new house before you've sold the other house, you could lose about 10 or 20 pounds in that, that stress level.
You can age yourself a few years on that. So.
Well, I realize that. It all worked out really well in the end.
Yes.
But at the same time, the strategies in place that are best for the seller at that time is really gauged by how the realtor is assessing the objective person coming in, the realtor coming in and assessing the situation.
Absolutely. Every situation is nuanced, so there is no cookie cutter for each person. So we have strategies, and we have the experience to come in and say, this might be the best strategy for you to get you to your goal ultimately.
And we want the goal to be the next transition.
We want the happy, as easy as possible. A happy transition that you're satisfied where you've gone. We want to protect that equity in your house and make sure we get you the most money we can for your house. And in a timely fashion, so that you're not, months and months and months on end with showings and waiting and. Or no showings and waiting. You want to make it. You want to do this in a timely fashion, and that works best for you. Yeah.
Well, we do know that we have these huge snowbanks in our city right now, but as soon as they're melted, before the tulips even come, or before the daffodils come up, we're going to see for sale signs everywhere.
You're already starting. You get to be too late sometimes when you get to that point. Absolutely. Buyers are coming on. Buyers are still there.
Oh, yep. Okay.
The buyers are still there.
Well, I'm getting the signal. We are done. So join me next time over coffee.
This program is brought to you by Rogers Xfinity, connecting you to more of what you love. Visit Rogers.com for more details. Connect with us by visiting our website or email us at comments@rogerstv.com.
You called us in, meaning you suspect foul play.
We have nothing to hide.
How do we know that this sex scandal is real?
It was completely consensual.
Do you remember all of your cases, Detective Graff?
Only the ones that keep me up at night.
This is fraud on a massive scale.
I didn't do anything.
Sit down. You'll need a good lawyer to prove it.
Oh, we have one, and he's excited to meet you.
You might have yourself a murder case.